There is something I've got after that other stuff that I think would be fun to bring up. And that's something that I always like to gripe about. And that's actually Nintendo thinking they got something with those old games that you just can't play anymore. And then they get mad when somebody pirates them.
Yeah, Nintendo's not the only one guilty of that. There's tons of companies that do it. Nintendo is just obviously the most renowned for it, or basically the most famous, so they get the most attention.
That's true.
But yeah, there's tons of games that that have been out there that people want to play, and people make sites, or they have their fan translations, which Nintendo stops, and legally they have to do that. You have to make an attempt to protect your brand, or your brand can be lost to public domain.
If you let somebody mow your lawn for 7 years, it's your ass. They own it now.
Yep, they own at least that part of it, yeah. So, Nintendo has to respond like that, but they don't necessarily have to be as aggressive as they are. But the thing is, we get in a really fine line of, the United States exclusively, I can't speak for other countries here, but the Supreme Court ruled decades ago, you are allowed to copy media for personal use. That's perfectly okay. You can even give it away to people. You just can't make a profit on it. You're not allowed to sell it. You can't sell bootleg tapes outside of a concert, but you can give them to all your friends for free.
I just think at some point somebody's got to talk to these people and say, look, it kind of like abandonware in computers, which seems to have been fine. Look at them and say, if you don't release it, not just if you don't try and protect it, if you don't make this available in some way, shape, or form that doesn't involve buying something that you're not making a profit on anymore, because buying an old retro system doesn't help Nintendo. So I would say if you don't attempt to make a profit on it, if you don't make it available to the public at a price, I think at that point they should lose it. But on the Nintendo note, that brought me to something, looking at those handheld systems again.
They little Famiclone on a chip handhelds.
Yeah, this guy created a game called Star Explorers, and it was one of those things that I thought if it was, graphically downgraded a bit, it would more than run on one of those things. And I'm thinking, wouldn't it be neat if it came with that, and it came with a bunch of the other stuff too, but then we get into associating it directly with a new product. Nevertheless, the reason that came up again is because I know I told you I came across that, I can't remember, it's Mega something or other. That system that is an FPGA system that actually plays Sega CD games, and it actually connects to your Sega.
Yep, a Mister, yeah.
That thing was amazing. It was, and I'm looking at it and thinking, okay, I'm not giving up the Retron, but it would be neat to compare them, and finally I'd just be able to play Sega CD games, because it's not exactly easy to play Sega CD games, unless you have a Sega CD and you're willing to hook that up.
Yep, that's pretty much it right now. That's really the best way.
I'm going to have to get one when I can. I'm just going to have to get one, because, damn it, I've got to play some of those old games. I've got some of the games I used to really like here, but man, I want to play Jurassic Park again. I want to play Lunar and Echo the Dolphin properly, and Sonic CD in a way that makes sense. I never did get the Steam version to work properly. I got it basically slow, but it's not the same game.
I noticed it was wrong. It was just, it took a lot of fiddling even to get it to something playable at all, but...
Well, that's true. I'm sitting there thinking this music is off, the controls are off, the speed was off no matter what I did. Somehow the size of the character, this doesn't work. This is not the same game. So firing that up on the CD, which got me thinking. We keep considering the FPGA systems as a way to replicate the systems for old games. Doesn't this necessarily put the ability to create an entirely new system in the hands of just about anybody that can make one?
Absolutely. Yeah, we talked briefly about how, people are already making them into their own video game console, their own exclusive shells and everything like that.
I would very much like to see a new standard out there, some manner of standardized system that people could do whatever the hell they wanted on. The idea of a system, not just, and I mean a product that you can buy with standards.
Yeah, that would absolutely be nice. There definitely needs to be more options out there in general, but also, a lot of people would be like, oh, well, what about a Raspberry Pi? Well, it's a Raspberry Pi just runs Linux. It doesn't have a native operating system.
The Pi has a problem. It's never going to be more than a niche hobby outside of industry if something isn't done to pre-package the damn thing and market it.
And that is exactly what's happening with Mr. FPGA devices right now. People are actually, putting them together with, again, like custom shells and branding and all sorts of awesome stuff like that.
It's one of the things I liked about the Retro. I looked in how it came to be, and I found out that it's a whole lot of open source stuff that's been combined into a hard product that's branded, that can be manufactured and supported. And that produces a system that everybody can use out of the kind of stuff that people used to have to really know what they were doing to make work.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
Now, this is something you'll be familiar with, knowing quite a bit. I'm assuming you know quite a bit about the Xbox 360.
Never owned one, but I think I probably know enough.
I have, as you know, a Microsoft Surface Duo. Said Surface Duo is great. However, it's not quite fully taken advantage of. This should be a mobile Xbox 360, basically, I think.
Yeah, it would have been smart on Microsoft's part to probably try and get into the handheld market.
I can tell you right now, especially for a touchscreen, if you were going to get a handheld, this is better than a DS as far as overall operation. It's obscene how it's just amazing. It's marketed as a productivity tool, which is very good at. However, I think it's just the potential of being, like, say, call it the Xbox Horizon, or, if they hadn't named their stupid subscription credit, you could call it the Xbox 365, but oh well. But imagine if you had a pocketable Xbox 360, because there's so many games for that it doesn't matter.
Well, that's pretty typical anyway. The Game Boy was a pocket NES, the Game Gear was a pocket Master System, PSP was a pocket PlayStation 1.
Now, there's something that died before its time, the PSP and the Vita. I didn't think the Vita was a good idea until I started realizing how many exclusives are on that damn thing. It has a much bigger catalog than you would think.
Especially if you're willing to get imports. It's fantastic, and I regret having sold mine.
Yes, the imports have got me interested, especially all the JRPGs. Now, I'd have to look up fan translations and all that, but nevertheless, damn, it's ridiculous. The Vita may well be one of the best systems of all time, and after people get used to the idea of it being old-ish, and after they start to realize that, hey, maybe it's not so bad after all, because it got some bad press, damn, that thing, it may be pretty damn valuable after a while. And by valuable, I don't necessarily mean unless they're hard to find now, I don't know. But I think maybe people are going to want to collect for that thing.
That's already a thing. People absolutely are all about the Vita, and for good reason. I had one, I loved it. I pretty much had to sell it. I didn't really have much of an option. It was an absolutely excellent and capable device. I really enjoyed everything about it, and I really would like to see Sony make a successor to it. I think that would be fantastic.
I think if Sony did that could spark Microsoft's interest in a mobile system. I think that's the area where they could really nail it. They've always had good mobile devices, but they've never had anything to do with them. But now, with that system, and at this point it must have the hardware. Now, obviously, it's not running x86 right now, but it must have the hardware to run Xbox 360 stuff and everything on the OG Xbox. That's stuff they've already got the IP for, or the rights to use the IP anyway.
Oh yeah, that shouldn't be a problem.
There have been a few small things, strangely enough, not new ones, but if you go back, I don't know if you remember these palm top laptop, well, they called them palm top PCs. Basically my Surface Duo, but with a physical keyboard. I don't know if you remember those things.
Oh yeah, I remember those things.
What the hell happened to that? Wouldn't that be a great thing nowadays?
Smartphones. That's what happened to that.
Yeah, but that's true. I mean, not like okay, I'll put it to you this way. I got one that would be great now, but it runs Android. They could get x86 in that Surface Duo. And if they did, that would be a wonderful universal solution for them. I'm assuming they could get x86 in it. I don't know why they wouldn't be able to.
These days, absolutely should be able to. There's no reason they can't.
It actually has the capability to be used for VR, given how it works. Let me rephrase that. For 3D, given how it works, which is very similar to how DS 3D works, or the infotainment screen in a top-of-the-line Range Rover, actually.
Actually, was it you and I were talking about the Sony PlayStation, 3 3D TV?
Yeah, we were, because I personally use it a lot, even to this day.
Yeah, what are the marketing I guess marketing like flyers or ads or whatever you want to call it for it was literally two people watching two different things at the same time on the same screen. You just wear a different pair of glasses.
I love the idea that they advertise stuff like that nobody's ever going to use.
I would totally be interested in that. I think that would be super cool. I don't know how you solve the sound thing, but
I think somewhere it's got a headphone jack, and it can probably do two at once, because it does have a badass exterior speaker system for what it is. There must be a headphone jack somewhere.
yeah, that would make sense. It should have one. But yeah, I mean, that's honestly, the concept's brilliant there. Not just for entertainment value, but you could do so much with that.
It actually calibrates really well too. I've used it a lot for editing in the past, and people always find it shocking. If you get used to the idea and you adjust your color temperature a little bit and calibrate it, just like my X34, they both do a great job. But that Sony, the viewing angles, everything, like it was perfect for what it was intended for, but they never advertised it properly.
No, it's most people don't even know that thing existed. Like, it's, it was basically Sony trying to sell PS3 owners a TV that took HDMI, because most people were still plugging their PS3s into composite or maybe component. And it was a good idea, and there's, I think, a couple 3D supported games on the PlayStation 3, but that's it.
It came with Motocross Madness, I think, which I believe I played once.
Yep.
It's one of those things that, okay, you came out with this great idea, but you never told anybody. You never really told anybody what it was for. If they had explained it properly, like, this is your gaming screen right here, this is everything you need. If they'd have done that, they'd have probably sold more of them, but they just did not push it. I don't think I ever saw an ad for it.
Oh, they didn't. I can't even remember where I learned about it. I want to say maybe it was even like a YouTube video or something like that, or someone had one, maybe. And I was like, no shit, that actually exists. So I actually looked it up and came across some of that marketing.
I think over time I've started to appreciate the price a little bit, given what it does pump out. The audio on it is probably its biggest feature. It's also a reason it makes it difficult to use it as a surround set of monitors, because of the way the speakers are set up. It's designed to look like the PSP, and I'm wondering, did the PSP plug into things?
It did. PSP had composite out. Early models did, anyway.
Okay, this would have worked with the PSP, because it does have the exact same design language.
Yep, it looks just like it, which again, the PSP was supposed to be a companion device for the PlayStation 3, just like the Vita to the 4.
I had a PSP, but I think I used it for actually, no, I only used it to watch a movie once. But I did have it, and I think I bought Final Fantasy Advent Children for it, and
nice.
That was it.
Yeah, that's God, that's one of the coolest things about it. It was such a weird device that existed at a time right before widespread internet access. So you ended up with the UMDs, where you had full movies on these tiny little discs, these little optical discs, which of course brought back disc caddies.
Oh, I love that part of it.
Yup.
And on top of that, it was like Sony, it was like, screw it, we're still going to try optical. No matter what happens, we're never giving this up. And you got the caddies again, and it just felt pretty futuristic.
It really did. And then Sony being fucking Sony, it only used memory stick.
Oh my God, what was it with them and those damn things? They weren't any better than anything else.
Nope. They were not. It was just the same old flash storage that you get in any SD card. I mean, they are a hardware manufacturer. I do understand that. They have to continue selling physical things.
They got this Apple aspect to them about that, where they've got to keep things as proprietary as possible, and they think it really helps them out. But in the end, if they standardize things a little more, they'd be a lot better off. Anyway, what I'm thinking is, it popped into my head what we were talking about a mobile Xbox, using the Surface Duo perchance being branded wrong.
Yeah.
It should have been a gaming console.
Yeah, Microsoft really should have jumped in on that. Even if it didn't succeed, the PSP was moderately successful and the Vita was less than successful, even though it has its niche following, whatever.
I'm certainly not an expert in the Japanese market, but one thing I do know is that a handheld is going to do better there than it's going to do here by a long shot.
That is true, but Xbox is not doing well in Japan and has never.
Maybe it's a shame. I wish Microsoft could penetrate that more. They've got a few more Japanese exclusives, which is you see them on the stores, and you're like, wait a minute. But then again, I went to GameStop and I looked at I was going there looking for that power adapter for the DS. But what I saw on the back shelf in the PS4 section is a whole bunch of anime-based games or games that anime are based on, and JRPGs and stuff like that. And I thought, maybe it's time for me to buy a PS4 when I can.
Oh, absolutely, yes. The PS4 and Switch are full of those. They're full of the visual novels, the dating simulators, JRPGs.
One of the things I was going to ask is I haven't actually played. I've got one, and I wasn't very good at it, but then again, I didn't know what I was doing at first. I'd never played one before. I watch a lot of anime, and I watch a lot of the stuff that people would say, why do you watch that? Well, it's good if you actually pay attention. You know, it's got a good story. But I have not played a lot of dating simulators, and I'm not sure about the mindset I need to be in to actually succeed in them. Can you tell me anything about that?
I haven't played too many myself. I've honestly played the ones that are the most absurd. There's the really good ones like Doki Doki Literature Club, which, if you know anything about it, fantastic. If you don't, I can't say anything because I would spoil it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's other ones like Hatoful Boyfriend, Hatoful, I don't know how to say that word. And you play a pigeon in that one.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, that one's fun.
Yeah, that one got really good reviews by like everybody that played it, I think.
It's a very good game. But again, because it's absurd, I haven't played like the normal, I guess, dating simulators.
There's a few. One was Princess Connect, which was a weird anime because the main character just almost never said anything, and I was like, this is brilliant. Who ever thought of this? And then I found out it was based on a game, and you can get it on PS4. And the reason is they wanted the character to basically be you. That's why I never said anything.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's the reason, antagonists don't talk in RPGs or haven't for like so long.
Oh, really? Oh, the protagonist, you mean? Yeah.
I said antagonist, didn't I? Yep. Okay. Protagonist, yes. The protagonist doesn't talk.
I wish it was still that way. Aside from things like Final Fantasy, I want to hear Tidus talk and I want to hear stuff like that. But as far as RPGs in general, well, we did touch on it a little bit before. Not all that much, I don't think. The death of a text-based RPG was almost damn near the death of character and story. And by text-based, I mean the dialogue was text, not obviously a text-based RPG. But the second they started to voice the characters, I mean, you started to see it in Oblivion, even in the Elder Scrolls, but before that in other games, you start getting the voices, and then the lines get smaller and smaller and smaller, and the conversations get a lot less in-depth.
That I would agree with that. I will say there was definitely a point where you had a good balance of both. The first two Fallouts especially. Even though, again, the dialogue was short. It wasn't, they were sentences at a time, but there was just so many, See,
that's the thing, making sure it feels like you've got enough words to actually be having a conversation.
Yep. Well, and even you get into Fallout 3 and New Vegas, where you do start hearing some repetition and stuff like that. Morrowind, I don't think you ever did. I think Morrowind was probably the last real involved voice acted full dialogue RPG before it just got almost makes you wish for a nuclear winter, or I took an arrow to the knee, or somebody stole my sweet roll.
That's one thing I'll give Morrowind. I will give Morrowind the role-playing experience. I won't give it the game or the gameplay or the atmosphere of the world or anything like that, but I will give it
all of that. All of that.
Oh,
no, I love Morrowind. I think it's fantastic.
It's just the second, going from Daggerfall to Morrowind for me was like going from the entire world to a theme park, and I think that's probably what ticked me off about it, and I probably never gave it now I played it a lot, but I don't think I ever gave it a full shot because of what they did to the world to make it 3D. You see, I didn't think gaming needed full 3D yet, is what it came down to. And even before that, when Quake came out, I thought, why? Doom was enough.
The first Elder Scrolls I played was Morrowind, and that would have been in 2007?
I think the majority of people, the first game, or Elder Scrolls game they played was Morrowind. I think that when Daggerfall must have been maybe for, I don't know, it was a little, gaming hadn't quite got to the point where your average person was going to go out and buy Daggerfall. I'll put it to you that way.
No, and
How old they were.
I totally agree, but I think that the gap in age between Daggerfall and Morrowind made a huge difference as well. Windows 98 worked. It was fine. We're not going to talk about Windows 2000. But, Windows 98 worked fine, but XP was the user-friendly operating system from Microsoft. It was intuitive, it was attractive, it worked. And computers really took off in, the 2000, 2005 era, which would have been after, Daggerfall and Morrowind came out in, I think, 07, right? 09? It came out in 2002, Jesus. Yeah, and 1996 was Daggerfall. That's a radically different world, as far as computers go.
It's a bigger, more awesome world.
Well, yes. In the game, absolutely, yes, it was. But I mean, like, the nature of computing had changed radically since then.
That is true, and everybody wanted the true. It was kind of hard to get people into a game that was basically Mario in a pseudo 3D world, which is what. Well, Daggerfall did have a true 3D world, but the sprites and the resolution and all that they had to run at. I can understand trying to get past that, but I think we would have had a lot of really good RPGs that we never got if that move hadn't have been made when it was made. If they'd have waited another 5 years or so to go true 3D.
Yeah, it definitely would have been very different, and I'm not quite sure where things would have gone or went or anything like that. But full text dialogue had been around for so long, and it was doing so well. Even like the most recent Zelda game before Breath of the Wild still had full red dialogue. It wasn't until Breath of the Wild that they introduced voice acting in a Zelda game.
I see Burger Time up there a lot, and I've seen other people review it. I haven't played it, but I've often wondered, is it actually entertaining?
Oh yeah, I love it. Absolutely. What brand are they? They're not at games. They're some kind of little mini arcade machines, like the ones that are like a foot tall. Yeah, when they did theirs, one of the first releases was Burger Time. Like, it was one of the first couple up there with like Burger Time, Galaga, and stuff like that.
I actually never saw that one, but I've seen it. Damn, where have I seen it? I know I've seen it reviewed a few times, but I don't think I've ever seen it on a system like that.
It's super fun. I need to get other versions of it. Apparently the Game Boy version is one of the better ones. The NES version's solid, and right now I only have the Intellivision version and the Texas Instrument 99 4A version.
That might be why yours looks different than the rest that I've seen, because I think I've seen LGR do a later version, I believe. I don't know if I've seen the NES, but I noticed yours looked a little bit more on the primitive side, and I thought, wait a minute now, what have I been looking at?
It's the Intellivision version is the one that I've recorded. I do want to do something that contrasts the Intellivision versus the Texas Instruments version.
I was wondering, when I was looking at that and I was looking at my Steam library, if that is something that could probably benefit, at least bring it to a new audience as a remake. Chex Quest got a remake, it kind of sucked, but it was still a fun world.
I have a game from somebody that basically was making their own, like, Burger Time clone. It's super good, it's really good. It's basically just Burger Time and everything but name.
Are there any other games from that period that you think maybe still hold up, like better than others anyway, still hold up today?
There's a good few things from around then that do. I mean, Donkey Kong is a classic. It still works. It definitely holds up. In the same vein of Burger Time and Donkey Kong, I was recently playing Miner 2049er, and that's a great game. That's a challenging platformer. It's actually quite fun.
That one I haven't played. I don't know if you noticed that one. There was an arcade game I was playing, one of the Atari ones. You had to fly around, but you also had to land the thing and fly around through the mazes and stuff like that with your jetpack or whatever. Gravitar or something?
Okay, yeah, I don't know that one.
Whatever it was, I was looking at it and thinking, this is a bit complicated for an arcade game. Like, this right here could have been a home release, almost exclusively. That's asking a lot of somebody who just threw a quarter in something.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, it was Gravatar. That's what it was.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know that one. I haven't played that.
Gravatar is, yeah, if you can find it, it's in the Atari Vault thing you can download, but if you can find it, it was shockingly in-depth. The minute I had to land a spacecraft vertically, I was like, okay, why am I landing? What kind of bullshit is this? And then when I thought the level, as it were over, I ended up flying around in this place with my oxygen going down. It was really, really cool.
Maybe I have played that. It sounds vaguely familiar, but also it just doesn't quite seem like it.
Yeah, that's the thing about me. You scroll through the arcade cabinets in the Atari Vault, and when I got to Gravatar, I was like, oh my god, I don't even know what that is. And I turned it on. I remembered the name from something, but I turned it on and I was just shocked. I was shocked. You're going to like that when you play it.
I'm definitely interested in checking it out, but yeah, that's really how it goes with a lot of those games. I mean, everybody knows the big ones, like Pac-Man, Pitfall, like Adventure, things like that. Even, the bad ones like E.T. and Raiders of the Lost Ark are pretty renowned, but there's such a plethora of games out there that some are quite good, and they just never got the attention, or no one talks about them or anything like that.
It's like everybody wants to shoot mushrooms, but nobody wants to send a polygon around a circle. If you got something like the Retron or that other thingy that works with the Sega CD specifically, because I know you're a fan like me, what would be the game that you would want to play on it, like right out of the gate, that you realize would be the only proper experience for that game would be a resurrected system that's going to crank it out like it was built yesterday?
I mean, that's basically like asking if I could play anything on the Sega CD, what would I play? The answer is Snatcher.
That's like the one I haven't played, I think, Snatcher. Which one's that?
The one that's basically a retelling of Blade Runner that's made by Kojima.
I have neither heard of nor played. Well, no, I might remember it on a shelf or something. I remember something like that, but I don't think I know I've never played it.
It was not popular back in its day. Not at all. Even a loose disc nowadays is like $600.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I love it how a lot of the stuff nobody wanted to play is the stuff that's worth a lot now.
Well, that's exactly it. It has such a niche cult following. Then you have those completist collectors that we were talking about last time. And that drives the price up because, maximum demand, limited supply.
That said, the Sega CD itself was not very popular at the time. A lot of people jumped down that thing's throat, especially for the color palette.
Oh yeah, it was not considered a great item. I mean, it was not really considered worth getting. It was overpriced and unnecessary and lacked a relevant library. And then even worse than that are the Sega CD32X games that required both add-ons.
I don't know if I have one that requires both. I do have a 32X. I had a giant fighting robot game, like a mech type game, and I had Doom for 32X, which yet again is like, why bother? You've got it on the computer.
Yep. Doom to a home console back then was awesome. It was the thing you had to do. It was less of a meme and more of a showcase of what was capable. Now, like, Doom running on things is a meme. No, there's a couple of games, I think there's only 3 or 4, I'm probably wrong about the exact number, of games that are specific require both add-ons. It's a Sega CD game that requires the 32X.
Did they make any good ones in that way? Or
one of them is an improved version of Corpse Killer, so that game is terrible, but I love it to death. I grew up with that game. I only grew up with like 3 Sega CD games, and that was one of them, so.
And one of the others was Sewer Shark, so we know how that was.
Yep, I had Sewer Shark, Corpse Killer, and I had Jurassic Park.
I'm trying to remember if I had I don't think I had I have one of those. I don't think it was Corpse Killer. You know what? The one that I really got a kick out of, that to this day I can't wait to fire back up, is Jaguar Xj220.
Don't know it.
It's a supercar that had a funny history.
Oh, you talked about this one before, didn't you?
Yeah, you can only race as the Jaguars, but somehow It's just got this high-quality, badass feel to it, and it's just a great experience to play it, even though it's not a really good racing game.
That sounds good. That's a big thing for the retro game collecting is, we're not all going after the best games out there, we're going after the games that were enjoyable to us.
Yeah, that's the thing. Stuff that we enjoyed, stuff that we wanted, like when I went to get those games for the Sega CD, or for the Sega Genesis rather, I went after three that I already had. Well, four, but I hadn't bought the Sonic 3 yet. And arguably, probably not the best games out there, not the best remembered, although Shining in the Darkness is starting to get really fun now. But nevertheless, these are ones that I had. These are ones that I remember that were fun. And so far, I still haven't played Jurassic Park, but so far, all of them are.
That's a huge part of it. Like, there are definitely games I've gone back to, and I was like, this is bad. Like, how did I play it? But I put it in, I turn it on, I play it anyway, and I enjoy the experience, even if it is a bad game.
It's like me trying to play the old Wizardry games. I fire them up and I look at them on the computer and I'm thinking, okay, how do I move? They got some crazy interfaces back then. Like, nobody had really figured out how to do it. Daggerfall, I think, is the one that really smoothed that out. That you got to the point where, and even now, if you play the original, you're going to have a little bit of a headache getting used to it. It's much better in high resolution.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Which really makes me want to find Buck Rogers. I don't know what I did with that, but that was like an XCOM kind of game almost.
Okay, no, that could be fun. That does sound neat.
Yeah, think of it as a tactical strategy RPG thing that on other systems actually has some 3D exploration, but not on the Sega Genesis, obviously.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's one of those ones that you just remember for being super complex, super detailed, and things of that nature.
I definitely did not play that kind of stuff as a kid. I liked my platformers and shooters, and I was terrible at racing games, but I played them anyway. I never really got into anything like involved or puzzle solving or like RPG or RTS back then.
I did enjoy quite a few platformers, not as many as other people, few that actually hated Oddworld. I understood the graphics and the storyline and all that, but it just didn't do it for me for some reason. I think pretty much everybody else loved it, though, as far as I understand. I
tried. I didn't understand it as a kid. I played it years later and it was a little more enjoyable, but as a kid, I did not get it.
It's like Soylent Green. It's not exactly an original story. It's supposed to be all kinds of emotional and stuff, but even to this day, I just don't get it. It's all right, but it felt like a bit of a sluggish, but I'd rather play Earthworm Jim.
No, yeah, Earthworm Jim is more fun. I definitely much would prefer that as well.
That is the most ludicrous plot idea of all time, and yet it's hilariously good fun.
Oh, Earthworm Jim is like the epitome of the 90s, isn't there? With like Booger Man and Beavis and Butthead style stuff. It's just like, it's kind of gross out humor. It's bizarre randomness that makes no sense. It's like edgy and just really is the epitome of the 90s.
Did you ever actually play? This is a good question. Did you ever actually play Loom?
Nope, don't know what that is.
Well, you'll remember it now because when you played Monkey Island, when you went into that bar, there was the one pirate that had the Loom pin on, and when you talked to him, all he did was advertise this game Loom and say how great it was.
Vaguely remember that.
What I ended up doing, though, many years later, is having not played it, start development on a game. And I got about a quarter way